Little feedback there. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's Kim Davis. Welcome to Chalk Talk. Hi, it's Wednesday. We usually are on Tuesdays, but you know what? Sometimes you just have to punt. I'm super excited to be back on today. There's so much to talk about. And I guess what I'm really excited about is one of our Chalk Talk favorites is joining me, and that is Brandon Scott of B Scott Podcast. Did I say that right? You'll have to tell me. I always get it wrong. Sports Radio 610, but his own stuff is really, really cool. So I appreciate him joining me on short notice. And let's waste no time and bring him right in. Good morning, Brandon. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm ready to do this Rockets Clippers back to back. Always glad to be on with you, the Chalk audience. So I appreciate you for having me.
Well, thank you for being patient. My workout started a little bit late this morning, so it pushed everything back a bit. But I'm like, I got to get it in. I can't not. I have this whole. Well, we don't know, but I had people use AI for all kinds of things, and I've done a lot of training on it. I don't need it to write for me, but I do use it for my business and building plans and strategies. And so I had it to create a fitness plan for me and to get to the goal. It's about a 10-month plan, and it's everything from workouts, strength training, cardio, nutrition. I could put in like my injury, like it's super specific to me. And so I could not miss today because I also have it remind me, like I get these updates say, hey, Kim, did you do XYZ today? So I could not say no because I yesterday I did not do what I should, and I can't have 2 days like that back to back. So
That's a that's that's like an underrated part of the AI though. It's formulating an idea for you, but it's also all of it holding you
yeah,
accountable, right? Knowing that you've put in the time to even have that put out for
right.
you. So you're like, man, I gotta commit to this. So that's pretty
I gotta
good.
commit to it. And you can, and that's the beauty of it. You can train, it's a whole other session, but you can train it to do all of that. Like I have a team, my CEO who talks to the other people. And I built it all with just understanding how to use AI. And then I have it schedule and communicate with me and check in and say, hey, did you do XYZ today? Where are we on this? I have, revenue goals. I mean, you can put everything in it. I know people who train it to be like their house manager with their family. They've trained their kids have accountability partners. It's super cool. So that's how I use it, and that's what people I think are kind of sleeping on about it. I don't need it to create a social media post or write for me, but I do need some help building this business over here.
I use it every day. I use it every day. It helps me with planning. I use it for some editing stuff.
Yep, editing.
Even creating graphics. There are certain things that skills that you used to have that
Yeah,
because of AI, you just tell it, hey, do this thing that I don't know how to do, and
right.
it'll just kind of do it for you sometimes. So it's got its gifts and curses because I can see a lot of ways where is going to help a lot of people, but also it's gonna make a lot of people lazy.
Well,
So
that's why I have to keep
yeah,
writing my own stuff because I think if I just were to depend on AI, then I would lose that skill. Like it wouldn't be sharp. You
yeah.
just get away from it. And so, yeah. But
But
anyway,
writing is a thing that you can do. AI is for it's just to help you with the things that you can't do or don't do as well.
absolutely.
But
Graphics is
everybody
one of
should
those
keep doing
things.
the things that they do well. So
Right. And
yeah,
you know what, Brandon? Even you can use AI to help you do the things you do well. Ask them, hey, how can I sharpen this up? Right? Do those things even better. But let's do this better. Let's talk a little sports action, man. It has been a lot happening. Saw you, of course, last night at the Rockets and the LA Clippers game. It's a back to back. They play again tonight. But before we get to the Houston Rockets, of course, there was a big game over the weekend, the Super Bowl uh, with the Patriots and the Seahawks. I was glad. I picked the Seahawks, and actually I got to be a fan in that game, and I was pulling for the Seahawks. So I was glad about that. It was, slow going early. 9 points, no touchdowns. I saw something you tweeted like, "Man, if this don't change, me and my family gonna have to watch some Harry Potter." But what was your overall take on the Super Bowl?
so I said that kind of sarcastically because I actually was individually I was enjoying defensive struggle, right? And you and I, who have watched the Texans all year, and a lot of people that are watching this that are Texans fans, watched a lot of defensive struggles and watched defenses win a lot of games this season. And so I did not mind watching really good defensive play. To the Pats' credit, right? Christian Gonzalez, the cornerback for them, made quite a few plays, right? Like I thought both defenses were playing really well, but I was watching the game with my family. And and so you kind of want a little bit more excitement. It's if it was just me by myself watching the defensive struggle, it would have been one thing. But with all of us in the living room, we needed touchdowns, Kim. We needed something to kind of keep us around besides Bad Bunny and Coco Jones in the beginning and Charlie Puth. Like all of the musical, I even like Green Day. All of the musical acts were excellent, but it was the football that needed a little bit more fireworks. And then we finally got it no sooner than I tweeted that because I think we had gotten all field goals. Maybe Seattle was up like 12-0 or something like that. It was all field goals at that point.
Yeah, I think it was 9-0 when I saw your tweet, and then right after that, I said Brandon called it. Man, look at them producing for Brandon and his family.
Right on time. But it was but I would say this though, just about the game itself, that I thought it was a really cool story for Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really cool story for that Seattle Seahawks defense. I thought Kenneth Walker, who the running back who won Super Bowl MVP, who's going into free agency, what a moment for him. And he was incredible for the entire postseason. I thought it was really cool for Cooper Kupp, who was left for dead and now has his second Super Bowl. Like I really like just, you and I are storytellers and journalists and people who really appreciate that aspect of it. I thought it was a really good and fun and cool story to tell from a lot of angles. Obviously, Clint Kubiak, the offensive coordinator, now going over to the Raiders to try to figure that situation out, but a well-earned opportunity on his part. So I don't know if I mentioned Mike McDonald, the head coach.
Yeah.
There's just so much. Leslie Frazier, I think, is on that staff.
Leslie Frazier, the assistant head coach.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just I haven't even mentioned JSN, who had a quiet game, but was the NFL Offensive Player of the Year.
Well deserved.
Well deserved by a lot of measures. The best offensive player of the season. So a well-deserved award for him. So you just had a lot of really cool stories up and down the line for Seattle. I was glad to see them to win it, and that's the whatever Patriots hate aside. Like I don't actually hate the Patriots. I just found them to be annoying over time, but I thought Seattle was the better team, the better story, and I was overall satisfied with the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Brandon. I feel like this. I feel the same thing that I don't hate the Patriots. I find them to be annoying and arrogant, and unfortunately, I feel like some of that trickles down into places that I have to be more often than not. And so I am not a fan. And I'm just going to tell you one personal thing that I had, and this is just me. I'm sure nobody else felt any kind of way about it. Leading up to that game with the Patriots when the Texans were playing, and you know how we, were doing media all week leading up, and so you ask all kinds of questions. What do you think about this? Mike Vrabel, because he was a player. D'Amico, you were a player, so he had, of course, D'Amico had favorable things to say about him as a player and what he'd done with the Titans and what he'd been able to do with the Patriots. But when Mike Vrabel was asked, his first response was, he had a lot of picks. I was like, oh, that's what we doing? That's what we doing, Mike? But I also covered Mike Vrabel when he was on Bill O'Brien's staff, and he has some of that energy. So I was annoyed by that. I took issue with it. I'm sure D'Amico never even thought about it. It's a Kim Davis thing over here, y'all. It's just Kim Davis. I thought it was a little disrespectful. I'm just gonna say
that. They say he always has been like that, though. Like even back when he was a player, he's just been kind of I don't know what the right family-friendly word is to say. Let's just say a jerk. And that I want to use a more descriptive term, but a jerk all the way back to his playing days. Even his teammates would say that, like, hey, guys, one of the teams you playing football with, on the other side, you didn't like a lot of the things this guy would have to say. You're Willie McGinnis. Bruce, even back to his playing days, they say he'd been like that. So I guess that's just true to his brand. He's just kind of can be an off-putting guy.
Right. Hey, Brandon, you're sound a little bit like you're in the Matrix.
Oh,
Uh,
let's see, I've got my proper microphone on. Yeah, the right mic I've got.
Hey, good morning, Joe. Joe McGinty says, yeah, they say offense sells tickets, defense wins championships. The defense does win championships, but you got to have a little bit of offense. And so, but I agree with you. Defense wins championships. We saw that this postseason. Some people are asking whether or not this is going, the NFL is such a copycat league, or teams going to try to lean more towards defense now because of how successful it is. I don't know that, you need a really good defense, right? I don't know that people are going to get away from offense because Seattle had both, right? I thought Sam Darnold, who had like near flawless postseason, he was known for kind of throwing the ball away. And speaking of annoying, having to listen to Chris Collinsworth each offensive possession almost saying like, okay, well, can he not turn it over? He wears me out. I guess because Patrick Mahomes wasn't playing, you got to find something else to say if you're Chris Collinsworth. But you got to give Sam Darnold credit. Not only did he kind of finish this redemption story or this part of it, he had a really clean postseason and did the things they needed to win, So a guy that played on 5 teams in 8 years, 4 in the last 4, talk about being thrown out and left in the water after winning 14 games with the Vikings. Good for him.
Yeah, I do want to make sure that my audio is better before I kind of go on. Can you hear me now?
It's still kind of in the matrix. You want to go out and come back in?
Yeah, let me pop out and pop back in because I do have some thoughts about what you were saying about defenses and that kind of being the formula. So I'm gonna jump out and jump right back in.
Okay, cool. So that is Brandon Scott. Yeah, this is what technology does. It allows you to do a lot of really cool things, but sometimes it's also annoying. You just got to go with it. So he's going to pop back in so that we can get a cleaner audio feed. Want to make sure that you hear Brandon because he's got such great things to say. But yeah, I think it's interesting. Joe said Collinsworth. I know, right? He just wears me out. I'm not a fan of his work. I don't want to say I don't like him. I mean, it's not personal. I don't know him, but I'm not a fan of his work. He just does way too much. It's almost like he was, wanting Sam Darnold to turn the ball over. He was like, can he get through this series without turning it over? It was just too much. It's a lot. And so I don't really know. But hey, that's why he gets the big bucks, I guess, because his insight or his whatever it is he has, his personality, his all the things really matter to people. If you're watching, drop in the chat in the comments. What did you think about the Super Bowl? What did you like best? And I really want to know what you thought about halftime. I really, really, really enjoyed halftime. I thought the Bad Bunny performance was great. It was a great performance. And for those who say, I couldn't really understand it, how many of y'all understand a lot of the stuff you listen to the first time? I mean, people that speak in English, tell the truth. Like I've heard so many people last year say, man, I thought the Kendrick Lamar performance was spectacular. And depending on what generation you're in, they were like, but I ain't really understand it. They had to go back and then they were like, oh my gosh, it's even better than I thought, but the performance was really cool. And so I think that's kind of what people are finding out and saying about this Super Bowl experience, is that, or the halftime, I felt like it was a great story. It was a love letter to his culture and Puerto Rico, and it was about love. And so when you go back and there are plenty of things that break down what he was saying and what it meant and the symbolism and all the things. I don't know how you not like it. It wasn't negative. He didn't say anything bad. And I even I don't usually get into Twitter things with people online that say craziness because it's just not really worth it. And I don't want to go down those rabbit holes. But when people were talking about going back to your country, I was like, dude, y'all know Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. Like, he's a U.S. citizen. There have been people performing in the Super Bowl who were not. That's not his story. Okay, we got Brandon back. How's that, B?
I hope we got me back.
There you go. There you
Oh
go.
man, I don't know. I don't know what was going on, but I apologize to you in the audience.
No
So,
problem.
yeah. So what were you talking about? The
Defense and teams around the league. Is that going to be the thing moving forward? Which I'm fine with defense, and we'll get to this later. I'm going to put a pin in it here. I'm concerned with what the Texans are doing offensively, starting with just from the staff and listening to Nick Caserio talk about the defense, the offense. But I digress. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I just think it's important that you don't. I think it's important that you remember you don't have to sacrifice your offense for your defense.
Right.
Right. I think it is a trend, and I think it's something that you could even point to in some of those most recent Mahomes Chiefs Super Bowls, where it was the defense that was really the driving force. And that's not to take away from Mahomes. They obviously don't win without him, and
Right.
he's special in his own right, clearly. But the story that their last Super Bowl was the defense. The story of the Eagles, I know they scored 40-something points against the Chiefs, and their offense was really good. And that was them not sacrificing their offense for their defense, but their defense was also the story of that team. And then we're talking about Seattle right now, a dominant defensive performance in the Super Bowl and throughout these playoffs, but also not sacrificing that for their offense with Clint Kubiak and Sam Darnold and his resurgence, Kenneth Walker, who we mentioned. They had the offensive player of the year in Jackson Smith and Jigba, right? So they did prioritize offense and did not sacrifice that for their defense. I think that the Texans, if they're smart, could do the exact same thing. It is great to have a dominant, one of the best defenses in the NFL, if not the best defense. I think the Texans still can make that argument that they had that.
Right.
And so that is a winning formula. The comment that we had earlier from Joe, offense sells tickets, defense wins championships. Do both.
Both.
Because I think, man, and I think both do both, right? I think offense and defense can sell tickets. I think offense and defense wins championships. So when they talk about being well balanced and complementary football, it sounds like a bunch of chalk or a bunch of cliches. But if they actually stick to it and stay true to it, they can be in this exact position that Seattle and New England were in at the end of the year.
Talking with Brandon Scott, we're talking about the Super Bowl. We're also really just talking about where the league is overall. I mean, because the Super Bowl really puts a bow on the 2025 NFL season, although the game happens in 2026. And so now we're officially in off season, and in not too long, it's going to be time for free agent activity, right? You can sign free agents, and there's a lot of conversation about which way this Texans team will go. They've got some answers, some questions to answer. And so let's just start with the one that's obvious that everybody's talking about is CJ Stroud. And let me first say, I've heard no one say, well, CJ didn't play that poorly in the last game of the season, including him. So this is not trying to say CJ didn't play well in those last two games. He didn't play well. He won one of them. They lost the other one. It was epically bad. It was bad. But look at all the other games. Like, you can't be it's easy to go by what you saw last. But when you start talking about, is he the quarterback moving forward? I think you have to look at the body of work. I hope no one looks at what I do if I have a bad show, if I do a bad live shot and determine I'm just not good at what I do based on all of my body of work and what you get to see. So, I am not out on CJ like some people are. I think this is a crucial offseason for him. I think that he is, I think we'll see. I think he needs some help. He needs it from a coaching perspective. He needs it from a personnel perspective. And then he's got to do whatever it takes to not be in that position that, resulted in that kind of performance in the last game of the season. And so that's my thoughts about CJ. But I'm definitely not out on him. I do think he's a franchise quarterback, and he's a guy you move forward with. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Kim, I can tell you if I was judged on my worst shows or my worst work, I would not be sitting here with you right now or be in any of the position that I am right now. So I'm grateful that I'm not judged by my worst. But to the point of CJ, like he's obviously your quarterback, and I would pose this question: who else would be your quarterback? Like, what are your
What are your
if
options?
CJ is not your quarterback, what tell me exactly what is your plan? And whatever it is, it would have to be either a radical idea or something that's just frankly Kim stupid, right? Like it would be
Right.
the only options from upgrading from CJ Stroud are so radical and out of left field and unforeseeable that you can't even really talk about them. And then
Because you
the other
sound
ones,
ridiculous.
right? And then the other ones are ridiculous on the other end of you don't mean that, you're not going to do that. And so he is your quarterback, but I don't view it. I say that, but I don't view it as like you're stuck with CJ Stroud. I think you're fortunate to
Yeah.
have a quarterback that has been able to lead you to three straight seasons of postseason appearances, double digit wins. And I think for CJ, just to get straight to the point with CJ, I think that if he plays, people talk so much about his regression from the rookie year and how it hasn't been the same. And,
Yeah.
and I will agree that they don't have some of the same like explosive games and moments you think about because it wasn't just rookie year CJ Stroud, it was also rookie year Tank Dell, and that connection was magical.
Yeah.
Obviously, Nico Collins comes on in that season as well, finally having the kind of the guy at quarterback. And so it hasn't been the light show that the rookie year was. But I did think that this year, Kim, and this is my opinion, I thought that this year, prior to the playoffs, was a lot different for CJ than, say, last year,
Hmm.
where they really had those the health issues of the guys that they brought together not being able to play a full amount between Nico Collins, Joe Mixon, and Tank Dell. Somebody was pretty much injured for most of the season, and then the offensive line was a disaster. This year, the offensive line did a much better job of protecting CJ Stroud. And I thought CJ Stroud, especially once he came back from the concussion, but even
Yeah.
before that, did a much better job of protecting both himself and the football. And while I don't love the offense, I do think that the offense kind of helped him be more take more calculated risk, if you will. So I
Yeah.
thought CJ Stroud made a lot of improvements as a quarterback this season, and then it kind of just went way off the rails into the playoffs. It's like where was the approach in that quarterbacking that you were doing during the regular season?
Right.
Why didn't you take that over into the postseason, right? And so if he can just build off of what he was actually doing in the regular season in 2025, I think he'll have a pretty good 2026. And if there's any kind of concern about him, it would be that maybe the accuracy doesn't feel as pinpoint as it used to, but it's
Hmm.
still pretty good. I still watch him make throws where I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
Wow.
that's a top level type of guy. So yeah, I would say the concerns about CJ are much more about what's around him and also how he responds to what's around him. I think that's the
Right.
part
And
that's really important as well.
I think you're so spot on, but I also believe it's some of it's the system. Like this, we saw it during training camp. This offensive system is not designed to just go up top all the time. It's not, that's not what it's designed to do. And they don't like it when you say death by a thousand, cuts, but um it is not designed to be explosive all the time. And if and until the postseason, which is of course what matters, right? It's where you got to get, and nothing he does next year in the regular season is going to matter to people until he does it in postseason. But DJ was one of the best in the league at protecting the ball. I mean, that's not the problem he has, right? Um, he had an awful run in the postseason. There's no really other way around it. The first game that they lost, that they won rather, he didn't play well, but the game against New England, I mean, there's so like all the things that could go wrong did. And I was, at a friend's house this weekend for a Super Bowl party or kind of gathering. And Brandon, I don't always go to those because I like to watch the game, but this is one of my dearest friends, and she too is a person that likes to watch the game. And there wasn't a ton of people, But one of the guests, of course, was like, so I had on my Texans jersey that I never get to wear anywhere because I can't really wear it. So I'm like, I can wear it today. And she was like, "Oh, so are you sad because of Texans?" And I forgot I was wearing it. I was like, "Sad." I'm like, "Oh, no. I'm not sad. I wish wish they were there. They were there, I'd be there. But no, I'm not sad." So she started asking about CJ and what, don't you think they should put in Davis Mills? And I said, no. I said, listen, if you go to Davis Mills at the half, right? Because you're going to give CJ a half. What's he got to work with? He's got less to work with than CJ. So what Davis Mills has been for the most part when he filled in was he didn't mess it up. He didn't turn the ball over. That, he protected the ball, and I'm taking nothing from him. He's grown into a really good backup, which is what you need. I mean, it was perfect for them this year. But you're going to put him in there with no Nico Collins. Dalton Schultz was out. Your running game was, nothing. You had no Trent Brown. I mean, what are you putting him in there to do? You're setting him up for something that's not going to be good, and then you're creating an issue for the future. It just was no reason to make the change at halftime. I don't think it changes the outcome.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and if you bench your quarterback in a playoff game, you are effectively saying that he's not your quarterback, right? Like everything you said earlier, and that I agree with, that hey, CJ guy and all of that, you bench him in a playoff game, that's not the case anymore. Like it's hard to tell even just him. So and thank you all for what they success and was right, because he was feeding Nico Collins. So
right,
you off mic again.
Right. Yeah, your mic was a little acting up, but it popped back in. So a couple other things. Okay, somebody from YouTube said American football is the feminized version of rugby. I'm not really sure how you would say that, but okay. I don't feel like American football is soft. Do you watch these guys play?
Yeah, there's nothing. I don't get that.
Yeah, I don't get that either. And then Joe says,
well, I guess because rugby they don't wear the
they don't wear the pads and the uniforms and stuff.
Yeah,
they ain't getting hit like that either though. Line up with Kamari Lassiter or Jalen Petrie and take one of those hits and let me know about that feminized comment. But I appreciate you, Marcus, coming.
How about Aziz Al-Shaair?
Or is the Aziz Al-Shaair? I mean, yeah, we can go down the list, right? We can go down the list. Yeah. Joe says, I have to keep reminding myself that CJ is only in his third season. He had no weapons the last game. Did he play poorly? Yes, but I'm riding with him. Absolutely. And when you were off, we talked a little bit about halftime. I'm going to throw that in because it's, I did want to mention the Bad Bunny show. I thought it was a really good performance. And you mentioned we're storytellers. It was a story. He was telling this story about his culture, and it was a love letter to his culture. And I could get that throughout the performance. And then when you go back later to see what it all really said and what it meant, I just thought it was, listen, the people as the shrubs or the sugarcane fields, I just thought the production of it and the performance was brilliant. Being a part of Super Bowls and seeing how they have to move those sets on and off so quickly, that's really cool to see. And the way that they were able, like, we can't get all these trucks on this field to bring in like all these plants or shrubs, so we're just going to make the people be the canes or the shrubs or whatever you want to call them. I thought that was cool. Joe said it was epic, message received, and Bad Bunny delivered. I just needed a translator, but the production was a vibe, exactly. And for those who complained that there were no whites, well, POTUS killed DEI inclusion. Exactly.
I thought it was a great show. I thought it was a great show. I hope and I'm really sorry for that. I thought it was a great show from a storytelling standpoint. I thought the whole thing about not being able to know the words was a little bit overblown because I don't know the songs, but not knowing the words wasn't really an issue for me at all because it all had a sound, like sonically it worked whether I knew the words or not. So it's like if you told me the words, that wasn't, I don't think, gonna make the song necessarily any better or worse because of the type of music that it's dance music, you know, and dance music doesn't really need words to make you dance. So I enjoyed that part of it. Then you talk about the visual element of it. Like it was just so far beyond, and that's the cool thing about what these Super Bowl halftime shows have become. They've got so many layers to them, where there's the musical layer. There is sort of a socio-political uh like messaging that's happening within many of them. There is the visual part of it, right? Like, how do you make it a big show for the live audience that's there at the Super Bowl and for the television audience or the broadcasting audience that's watching worldwide, and figuring out a way to do both of those things. I thought Bad Bunny nailed it on all fronts. The fact that you had a real life wedding happen within the performance. You
Yeah.
had like just casually a group of celebrities of like, Cardi B and Jessica Alba over there dancing kind of just like they're in the club. He brings out Lady Gaga, you know what I mean, and
Ricky
who's somebody who,
Martin.
right, Ricky Martin, right, like which was, I thought, me and my girlfriend both were like, is that Ricky Martin? Man, he looks good. Like, he looks as good as he ever has. And so, like, just like moments like that. And then of course my kid goes, who's Ricky Martin? And we have to like explain, like, yeah, he was a really, really big deal back in the day. So all of that I thought was really, really good, well put together. Um, the I thought the show itself outshined the noise around it, if that makes sense. And I don't want to belittle like the strength of some of the political messaging behind it, but like this, just the polarization around it. Oh, I'm not gonna watch this show. Oh, we gonna make a whole white show over here on the side for people to watch Kid Rock. Like, this just blew all of that out of the water, and I felt like by the end of it, people were just enjoying the production and the show for what it was.
Wow. I agree. I thought it was all the things. And so, uh, kudos to Jay Z, right, who has been kind of really responsible over in recent years for halftime shows. Um, and you mentioned stories, and I wanted to mention one. We talked about Kenneth Walker being the MVP and running the ball really well and going into free agency. A really cool story I thought was that his father was actually at the game and they showed him in the stands at one point. And so afterwards, he talked about how his father would come to Seattle for all the games, but he would never come to the game. He doesn't like crowds. Right. And so his dad actually got to be in the stadium and be a part of it. And he was super excited that his father was there. I mean, I just, all of those stories just make you smile. And then speaking of Kenneth Walker, there have been Texans fans and Texans uh, media people that cover the team that have been fantasizing about Kenneth Walker as a free agent. I believe his price probably just went up. But do you think the Texans, is he somebody you'd like to see the Texans go after in the offseason?
Yeah, I'm one of those. Like, I think I agree with your point that his price probably went up, and that Seattle's desire to keep him probably also went up, right? So he probably means, I'm not gonna say probably, they just won the Super Bowl and he's a Super Bowl MVP. He means more there now than he will mean anywhere probably ever, especially given this time in his career as a free agent. So I could see, but that doesn't mean he's going back to Seattle. So who knows where he ends up. I think that the Texans should definitely be interested. He should be high on their list, if not at the top of their list. I also think that the easiest scheme fit and idea aside from Kenneth Walker would be Brees Hall, because of what he
Ah,
does well, and for better or worse, the scheme that they run here, the gap scheme that the Texans run in their run game. Brees Hall he gets most of his work there, or does most of his work there. So I think it would just be a natural fit. And we've heard some of some like Easter eggs of little nuggets of Brees Hall and some of the Texans. But he's got that whole Iowa State connection, I believe, right? So I think he played with some of the guys or has a connection with some of those Iowa State receivers. So there is a connection there on top of the fact that he's a just kind of a perfect scheme fit. So he would be, to me, a good. I don't even want to call him a consolation prize. I would say those are the two guys they should be prioritizing if they want to take big swings in free agency at running back. I don't know that they do, right? They might want to go running back, or I'm sorry, they might want to go draft, or they might want to trade. I don't know how exactly they want to address the position, but if they want to go free agency, I would say Kenneth Walker and Brees Hall are like 1 and 1A toward the top of my list of what I would like them to be after.
Yeah, I think that we have to kind of be beyond the fact that Joe Mixon could come back. I've heard or seen nothing that says he can physically. I think he would, he sometimes mysteriously will tweet these things or post in his IG stories. I'm sure he'd like to play. I mean, he's a competitor, but the reason that he didn't play last year was just because physically he was not able to. So I don't know, that ship has sailed. Speaking of another guy and what he might be able to do physically, I think we're all excited to see what Tank Dell might be able to do. But I also caution people not to put too much. Don't put all that pressure on Tank to save the offense. First of all, that's number one, right? But also, Tank had a really catastrophic injury, and to see what does healthy look like? Is healthy a 75 or 80% of what you got before? I don't know if it's 100. I'm not trying to say he can never get there. I just think you're going to have to see. And Tank's still a little guy. I mean, we see him all the time, and I'm like, my arms are the size of his legs, But love Tank, love what he's meant to this team, love his spirit, the fact that he is so ready and wanting to get back out there. I think it's great that they gave him an entire season for rehabbing and healing and getting ready. And, we'll see him in OTAs, and you really won't know until, you'll see stuff and you'll know a little bit. And I have no doubt that he's going to be Tank and, work hard and look dynamic. But until you start getting hit, you don't really know how much of that has, how far back has he come or what healthy really means, I think, until maybe when the pads come on in spring training. You get to see him run some routes in OTAs, which will be fun because he's always exciting. But they do have to get some other offensive weapons, and clearly they've got to figure out the offensive line, which concerns me because that has not been a strength of Nick Caserio's. Now, let me ask you this. Ed Ingram is going to be a free agent. I say you sign him and then figure out what else you have. I think, so then you've got Tay, you got Arion Tay Ursary. Then you could have Ed Ingram if they were willing to pay him. And you've got Titus Howard. I think you got to address the center position. I just do.
Yeah,
I don't know. What the challenge is.
I don't know how you don't. I mean, and if it's not the center position, it's got to be left guard. I think you need to address both, but you can't get away with not. You cannot get away with not addressing at least one of those positions. Right. I'm afraid, Kim, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm afraid that Jake Andrews has a little bit of and I don't even mean this to be disrespectful to him, but like a teacher's pet element to the familiarity. I don't think he's going anywhere. And so while I agree with you, I feel like they like him more than most of the rest of us, right? So that leaves to me the left guard position.
Can you like somebody and realize that they're not the best for the position? I mean, to me, that's what leadership does.
And see, that's what I mean. I think they wrongfully believe that he is. Wow. Because what I mean when I say like, not just like, go to his kid's birthday parties kind of thing, but like they like what they see more than the rest of us, like the fight. And he does have he's out there battling. He's just not that good.
He's just not that good.
He's not good at all. Really.
He's not that big.
No, he's not good at all, really. But he is out there battling, and they like that. And so I guess that works for them. But to me, that means, though, if you're not going to go center, you got to go left guard. I think you need to go both. But one of those positions, right, that's the Achilles heel of the offense. And I think that it with Ed Ingram on one side, and let's just say a much better and reputable left guard on the other side, I think they could maybe raise Jake Andrews up a little bit, right? You know, and I'm not
Yeah. Now,
advocating
you
for
want to see
it.
Titus at guard, or you want him to be a back out at tackle?
I would prefer Titus back out at tackle, but if he's going to be at guard, I want them to commit to that. I just want them to pick their struggle, right?
Yes,
And just go with it. And so I don't love Titus at guard. I think that it would be a better idea to go get
you a
Titus.
guard.
He just happens to be the best left guard that they have, and he's not even a guard, which to me
says a lot.
It's at once a credit to Titus Howard and his versatility, but on the other end, an indictment on your ability to just acquire one of the guys that plays this position. So, and with that said, it probably doesn't give you a whole lot of confidence that they can go out there and do that. But there are guys out there. The Steelers guys, Siamalu, he's one of he's one of the Polynesian guys who has been good for a while. Was a Pro Bowler a couple of years ago. He's going to be a free agent. I know a lot of people are talking about Tyler Lindenbaum to sign, and you know, in terms of trying to address the center and left guard positions. Like you need to be in the market for one of those high ticket guys to address center or left guard, or honestly both, if you're going to try to be serious out here.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I like what you say about it, the high ticket, not just spending money for the sake of it, but let's not try to think you're going to do it with just a little bit and then we can just coach them up. No, go get somebody that can play. You want to see your quarterback take the next step. One, hopefully your offensive coordinator that you guys have decided to stick with is better. You know, he's limited, in my opinion. I don't necessarily like what he calls. He got a little better throughout the season. He has the moments. I don't know why they can't figure out how to handle zero pressure, but perhaps they do better with that next year, right? They do better with it, with better offensive line and better weapons. But go get you some weapons. And if somebody asks, are there any more receivers, tight ends, or otherwise that CJ played with in college that's available? Do you guys know? I'm just asking for a friend.
Yeah, I don't have his college teammate Rolodex kind of in my head, and this is probably off the heels of Jackson Smith and Jigba winning the haven't been available in the draft and winning offensive player of the year. But no, I think that I kind of want to go back to your Tank Dell point because I'm glad you brought him up.
Yeah.
Because this is something that I think is important for the Texans in this offseason and trying to figure out what this offense needs. We understand the offensive line points, right?
Right.
But in terms of the weapons, I don't know if we can stress enough how much this offense, not just CJ Stroud, obviously, but by extension, the offense itself missed not just Tank Dell, but also not having anybody like him.
Right.
So they didn't have Tank Dell himself. And then in their efforts to fill out the position group, they never really added a guy that could replicate that. And to be fair, Tank is special. Certainly pre-injury Tank is special.
Yeah.
But they also didn't find somebody that also does the Tank Dell things.
It wasn't Christian Kirk.
It wasn't Christian Kirk.
We don't know if Jalen Noel turns into that at some point.
No, and it wasn't Jalen Noel.
Probably isn't, because Tank did it right away.
Well, it's the difference is the route running.
It's the route running.
Tank Dell came in there as like a veteran route runner, or an elite type of route runner as a rookie, whereas Jalen Noel has elite physical skills, but certainly it's not an elite route runner by any stretch yet. And then Christian Kirk has high level route running skills, but was physically limited this year by his injuries.
Yeah.
And so if you could take Christian Kirk's ability and route running skills and take Jalen Noel's physical ability and bring them together, you might have had something closer to what Tank Dell gives you as someone who can separate quickly, can do it down the field. When we talk about the offense being dink and dunk, it was CJ who I think mentioned that death by 1,000 cuts thing that they don't like, by the way. I will point that out. But when we talk about it being that way, it's because there ain't no Tank Dell type of player out there, really.
They don't have any.
Listen, got Nico Collins, and then that's kind of it.
you mentioned about the route running, because I know that when we're, I mean, I talk about it some of the season, but especially during camp, who can get separation, right? After you get from Nico, that was tough, but there wasn't that person even kind of close to what Tank Dell gives you. And I'm just not super excited about what the receiver coach draws up in terms of. I just think the route trees are limited, right? I just um
Yeah, they're
like I
very
said,
basic. They're very basic
they're
routes.
and he's not evolved.
No, no. It's like it would be like an offense you would have watched 20 years ago. Very
Yeah.
basic, very predictable. And then the use of Nico Collins. This was something that
They
we had
didn't
a
do
good
that well. There were too
they,
many
they
times where you just didn't use him. You couldn't get. Why can't you? You need to
hey,
draw out plays just for Nico.
oh, I'll give Bobby Slowick this much credit because I
Yeah.
watched this even last year, the year they got him fired. They were moving Nico Collins around in formation so much. They had him in the slot. They had him in motion. They line him out wide as kind of in a traditional sense. They do everything with him. And that's something that all of the teams, the good teams, the quote unquote innovative teams are doing that with their receivers. Jackson Smith and Jigba is a great example of that, where
Yeah.
you never know. Well, he might line up out wide, then he might motion into the backfield, and then he might still get the ball. Like it's hard to predict what they're gonna do with this guy. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a guy like that, right?
Yeah.
Puka Nacua, they do all kind of stuff with Sean McVay. Like you got to move your best receiver around and have like creative ways to use him as opposed to just that's my
Lining them
X
up.
receiver and go
Right.
run this
Go
this
run this
post
route.
route. Yeah, like
Right down the
I
field.
mean, they got to
Yeah,
do.
they're gonna
They're
double,
gonna have to
triple
be
him and
more
make it
creative.
hard to get the ball. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So Senior Bublé asked, "Are y'all out on the Jordan kid at running back?" So I'm not out on Jawar Jordan. I like him. Um, the challenge is, I mean, I don't know that he can be your one, right? And as much as we like Woody Marks, I still think that they're probably looking for your RB1. And the problem comes up with George Jordan is he doesn't play special teams. So you got Dare, who is a special teams player, and your backup kicker. It's tough to get on the active roster sometimes if everybody's healthy. So when Chubbs was out, like you could pull up Jawar Jordan because you had a spot, but there are many times he was a healthy scratch because he was hard. It was hard to get him on the active roster just because of how many running backs they take into a game, and the fact that if you don't play special teams, you know what I mean. I think is a challenge. So no, I'm not out on him, but they've got to figure that part out.
Yeah, their issue isn't having a backup running back. They've got several of those.
They need a one.
They need a one. They need a
Yeah.
one, and that's who Joe Mixon, obviously, as we know, was supposed to be. Even if he didn't start the season, I think they were hopeful that he would have come back at some point. That's what he was supposed to be, and now that's the thing that they got to plan for. The thing
Yeah.
that they actually have to go out there and get now that the Joe Mixon thing appears to have ended the way that it has, with him not playing in 2025, and there not being any clarity even at this point on what his availability might be. So you got to go get a guy like that, right? Just how I mentioned earlier, they not only did they not have Tank Dell, but they didn't go get a guy or didn't not replace him with a similar type
Right.
of guy. Okay, well now that's the transfer that to Joe Mixon. You need to go get a guy like that is of that sort of caliber. Who knows what caliber he is now, but the caliber that he was 2 seasons ago when he got here,
Right.
and that he had been in Cincinnati. You need, I think, at minimum, that type of running back, and that's where you get into the conversation we're having about Kenneth Walker and Hall, possibly what they could do in the draft. They like a running back that they feel like can be that type of guy for them there as well. So, and Jawar Jordan, to be fair to him, a wonderful story, and somebody I'm glad that he had been drafted 2 seasons ago and then finally got his debut
Yeah.
this past season. That's a great story, and kind of
Great
being ready
story.
when your number is called. But for the purposes of this conversation, he would be competing for one of those backup roles. Kind of you get it out there. I think it would be kind of stacked against him given Woody Marks, Dario Gumbawale's versatility, Nick Chubb, if they feel like he can still give them something, or if they just want to go in a whole nother direction in terms of backup running back. But they need to address the top end.
They got to address that. We talked about tight end. Brevin Jordan hopefully is healthy and back. I would have loved to have seen what he could have done. I mean, he's had some unfortunate injuries the last couple of years. Hopefully he stays healthy. He's got some skills that make him kind of a hybrid. But, and the way Dalton Schultz played last year at tight end really came on. The legend Ralph Cooper chimed in. He said, stay strong, keep doing great things. After the draft of 2026, the Texans draft, I will book a trip to the next Super Bowl. I will not attend because of the halftime show. My message, I look for Houston finally in a Super Bowl. Keep up the great work. I will not attend because of the halftime show. I will book a trip. Ralph, what you talking about? But I hear what he's saying. Ralph is saying after the draft, he feels like they're ready.
I'm trying to see if Ralph is being sarcastic or if he's really being one of those get off my lawn people and don't give me all these Super Bowl halftime shows. I'm going to sense that as sarcasm, but I do want to say that what an honor for me to be on with you and then have the legend Ralph Cooper.
Absolutely.
Like this is like double cool for me, Mama. I made a type of situation. I'm on with Kim, and I got Ralph watching.
Right, the legend Ralph.
You're not gonna be able to tell me nothing after this today.
So when I see you at the Rockets game tonight, and you kind of got your head up, I'm gonna know why.
That's right. Because I'm cool. I'm cool with the legend Ralph Cooper, and shout out to you, our legend Ralph Cooper. Appreciate you for tuning in.
Hey, before we get out of here, let's talk about the Rockets a little bit, because we're going to have a lot of time to talk about these Texans. I hope they re-sign Sheldon Rankins. He'll be a free agent. I just want to throw that in. Clearly, Will Anderson Jr. should get his bag this offseason. You got to pay Will, and you got to get ready because soon you're going to have to pay Lassiter, right, and Bullock. So this is where you make your money, Nick. Figure it out. But let's go to the Rockets. The Rockets are right now 33-19. We were both at the game last night where they defeated the Los Angeles Clippers 102-95, a team that previously had put up 23 pointers. But as you mentioned earlier, or as not you mentioned, Kevin Durant mentioned last night, they had James Harden before when they made all those threes. But still, a healthy Kawhi Leonard is playing really well. He was 7-19 last night. Had 24 points, 8 rebounds. He's playing well, but they're not at 500 yet. When you look at this Rockets team as currently constructed, right? There's no Fred VanVleet. As much as I love to see Fred back this season, I don't see this Rockets team being a championship team. So why rush it for a guy like Fred, right? You're without Steven Adams. He's done for the season. It's about matchups, who they may draw in the playoffs. I mean, we're ways away from it, but although it's the All-Star break is coming up this weekend, we're beyond half point in the season, right? They play 52 games. Tonight, 53 games. So they're more than halfway through the season. What do you think is the ceiling for this Rockets team this year? And what are you hoping to see?
Yeah, so I think the ceiling is going to the conference championship. Going to the conference finals. We just said conference championship because we were just talking about football, but going to the conference, that's the ceiling. That doesn't mean that I think that they're going to go necessarily.
Okay.
But I think if they get the correct luck of the draw, I think that if something, goes poorly, because think about it, it all comes down to the fact that they're going to have to go through either one or both of OKC and Denver, and then of course you get San Antonio in that mix as well, right? And I think they're third in the West right now as we're talking.
They moved up to third last night,
right? But I think it would be fair if we wanted to put them somewhere in the group behind the first three, if we want to be honest, right? That right. I think OKC, Denver, and San Antonio have played better ball than the Rockets overall.
I think they're in a category, right? They're in a group,
right? Right. So yeah.
OKC right now it's OKC 1, San Antonio 2, and Houston's moved up to 3, but it's just by a game. Denver's 34-20, Houston's 33-19.
Yeah, right? I think we all trust Denver more right now.
Right.
and
Because you think
rightfully
about, we're
so.
talking about a 7-game series.
Right.
This team has some challenges in the half court.
Yeah. Yeah. And with that said, I think with those challenges in the half court and the Fred VanVleet injury that you mentioned, and I would agree with you that it's not worth it to rush him back. And I would seriously question how effective he could really be, like how much of a boost that would really be at this stage. Not coming back next year, but trying to come back at the end of this season.
Yeah.
I got serious doubts about his readiness, right?
And
And I'm
how
not
much
trying to
he's going to
put,
be able to move the needle in a short
yeah,
period of time.
yeah. It's just hard. I mean, the guy is a human being. I don't know how like you're supposed to expect that or reasonably expect that. So that being said, I think the floor is a first round exit, right?
Right.
They could be a 4 or 5 and say they go against either the Timberwolves or the Lakers. Like I think they could win those series. I think they could lose those series, right? So they could lose the first round. They
Yeah.
could catch the right matchup and win a round, losing the semis, or even get to the conference finals and still have to go up against either OKC or like whoever it is that's waiting on them. So my
Yeah.
point being, the idea that they could get through a combination of two, either OKC, Denver, and San Antonio is far-fetched to me. Could they beat one of those teams in a series? That's probably their ceiling to me. And even that would, I think,
Yeah,
be a tough
I don't
ask.
know.
I think that would be a
I
tough
think
ask.
it is about matchups. I think they could beat the Lakers in a series. I think Minnesota, you just never know what you get from Edwards, but that's going to be tough. It's not a given. I don't see them beating OKC in a series with a healthy SGA. In San Antonio, in a winning games, we're talking a 7-game series. That changes things, you know. And then Denver. I just think the West is just so loaded. I thought that as I look at them now, I think of them as, like winning their first round and then competing in the second round. I'd be surprised if they got past it, but it depends again on who's the second round matchup. Like if the playoffs started today, right? So you'd have, OKC and Golden State. San Antonio would play Phoenix. Houston would play Minnesota, and Denver would play the Lakers. So then they would come out of, if they beat Minnesota, then they're probably faced with,
like think about it. If say somehow either Denver lost to Minnesota, or Denver somehow lost to San Antonio, or Denver lost to the Lakers. Like my point, I think that all the teams outside of OKC can cannibalize each other. I
think you're right. I see what you're saying.
That's sort of my point. So could they beat one of those? Maybe Denver's the least likely, but say it's not Denver. Say one of the other teams beats Denver, and then you're left with San Antonio or the Lakers or Minnesota or somebody like that in the second round. I think that would be manageable. But if it is Denver and you got to go Denver, OKC, or you know what I mean, like that.
Yeah. It depends on how it all ends up.
Yeah.
I think you're right about that.
And I'm not even guaranteeing that they would beat San Antonio or Minnesota. I'm just saying, like, it could be.
Right.
It's a little bit more of a hodgepodge after OKC, but you probably don't feel great if you're a Rockets fan that they could just run the gauntlet.
Yeah, you probably don't feel great that they could do that. I tell you, one of the things that I miss about this team is that edge they had last year, right? That you got when you had Fred and you had Dylan. I don't think people realize how much they would miss Dylan. I mean, I think the team knew it. I'm sure Ime knew it. I mean, when I talked to Calvin Murphy, he talks about it. But you had to give Dylan up. You had to, you got to give up something to get something. And so they missed that. So they look different. And so when you see them, and even last year, Ime is not shy at all by saying, yeah, we got punked tonight. We play soft. I mean, there were times when he said that about that team, but that team was tenacious and they were pretty much always in it. right? You could see that kind of fire and that grit in them. And I miss that team a little bit, but I understand that, you needed a finisher. You got that. And Kevin Durant is still playing at such a high level, for what is he, 37 years old now, but he's still playing. He still got it. And I hope that they don't waste it. Before we hop to the Astros real quick, close things out. You were one of the ones that wanted Giannis, right?
I was.
Yeah. Now, did you think Giannis on this team would make them a championship contender?
No, I think so. Uh, the flaw in the Giannis logic is that you have to build a team around Giannis. So
Right.
it's not like you just put him on a team, plug and play, like Kevin Durant, for example. You just put Kevin Durant on a team, and bam, it looks different. With Giannis, you're now committing to changing the team to look in a way that has to complement, what
Yeah.
Giannis brings to the table. So no, do I think you can just plunk Giannis on the team and make him a contender? No. Do I think that makes you better and makes it worth the pursuit? Absolutely. But no, I don't think it just changes things in that way. You still have the shooting deficiencies or questions at least about spacing and those problems. But to me, once you bring in a guy like that, you're committing to doing that, right? Where it's like, okay, all this about having guys that can't shoot, no longer. Like
Right.
we gotta find our Bobby Portises and Chris Middletons and Brook Lopez's of the world and guys that can space the floor with Giannis.
And you
You
got to
know,
have somebody, B. Scott, that can handle the ball. I mean,
yeah,
the idea that you don't really need a guard, we see is not really the truth. You do.
you
You
do.
need a floor general,
Yeah.
really on both sides of the ball, but you really do need that person. And so, um,
I do want to say that one of the things that stood out to me that wasn't apparent from like the stat sheet from the Clippers win last night was that I thought Reed Shepard and Amin Thompson, to this point about needing a guard, right? Because you're
right,
not going to be able to do it without one, which
right.
means since Fred can't play right now, that either Reed or Amin is going to have to be that guy if they're going to have a chance, right? It's just as simple as that. And so I thought that despite Amin just having one assist, despite Reed having a handful of turnovers, that both of them seemed a lot more comfortable, at least in this game,
Yeah.
against a pretty solid defensive team in the Clippers, with making decisions with the basketball and and I think taking care of the basketball and kind of slow. I think Kevin Durant was the one saying last night when I asked him about it,
Yeah.
about the patience, showing a little bit more patience.
Yeah.
And that's
And making better decisions.
they're gonna need that. They're gonna need that. That to me, though, that thing right there, and then of course Jabari Smith Jr.
Ah,
Really, really, those three players, and you can throw in Tari Eason in that conversation as well. Obviously, what you get from KD and Alpi is going to be major because those are your stars. But really, that trio of Amin, Reed, and Jabari Smith Jr. playing the way that they played last night and the way that
right.
Jabari honestly has been playing for about a week or so is
Yeah.
going to be what's important. Is going to determine the answer to our question, our discussion right here, right now. How far can they go? How far can those guys take them beyond what KD and Alpi are going to give them?
So, and I agree with you. And there are people, I've heard people, some of our colleagues talking about, well, Ahmed's kind of regressed this year. I'm like, so you're not really watching the game.
Yeah,
Ahmed
no,
has been asked to do something that, and I think because he's such an athlete and he's so smart, that he's been doing a really good job of stepping into the role. But I like him off ball because he's just so much more dynamic. And so that's why you're not seeing that guy, because he's doing something else. And I give him credit for still doing it at a pretty good level. You're right about Reed, and Reed has moments of defense, but he's not a great defender, and that's a challenge for Ime, right? So
challenge
I
for
think
everybody.
that, well, yes, a challenge for everybody. He has moments, and so I think that they are continuing to grow, like you said, as playmakers. And those were great questions last night. That could be their, kind of Achilles heel until they get, Fred back, which probably is next season. But they have the Clippers again tonight, and then they have a break for the All Star, and then they're kind of mid break, if you will. And now, of course, we're talking about baseball season. I'll be headed to West Palm on Sunday to do a couple of days of spring training. Your thoughts initially about these Houston Astros expectations? It's early. They've been working on the pitching staff. They got to get another bat. I asked Dana about that last week at the media luncheon. He talked about it a bit. How are you feeling so far? And although they did sign Isaac Paredes, I still think that there could be a move made to free up some space in the infield. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so the log jam in the infield is one of the big stories going into spring training. Josh Hader, the closer, his health apparently is a story going into spring training now, and we'll probably see some stuff about that any moment now about what
Mm-hmm.
he's doing with pitchers and catchers reporting. But of course that's their $95 million investment. Their all-star level closer. So we're gonna be looking at that. But also, when you talk about the bat, when you talk about the rotation, these are things that are going to be important in terms of the Astros taking that next step from last year, right? They need another left-handed bat. They need better patience at the plate. And these are things that are gonna play out throughout the season. But are we going to see that? Are we going to see kind of them returning back to the Astros that we remember them as, that used to be patient at the plate, take pitches, that sort of thing? Those are the Astros that we were used to, and that's not been the Astros that we've seen over the last couple of years. And so I want to see what that looks like. How are they going to address this influx in the infield? Because here's the weird part about it. Isaac Paredes I feel like the better player. Christian
Mm-hmm.
Walker feels like the guy that you're kind of stuck with. And so
Right.
in an ideal world, to me, you would be trading Christian Walker and finding a place for Isaac Paredes.
Right.
But it turns out Christian Walker's his contract is such an albatross that nobody would trade for it. And so he's more helpful to you than he is to you on the trade market. And so that's the part that's a little interesting, and I'm curious to see how that part plays out, because I think that they're better off with Paredes out there somewhere.
Right.
Of course,
I
Jose
think so
Altuve is
too.
returning to second base, so that it rules that part out. So
Right.
they got to figure that
Well, let me ask
log
you that
jam
too.
out.
And hey, Figgy, Figgy says I'm worried about Josh Hader. I think we all are, Figgy.
Yeah,
Um, what the Altuve situation? The challenge has been, his defense has kind of waned a little bit. I'm more comfortable with him at second than I am in left field. That's just me. Um, and he's Altuve, so you got to figure it out. you know, is it a platoon situation? You know, um, does Bryce get another shot? I mean, we'll see him in spring training. I think they have some answers. They have some questions to answer. And if Josh Hader's health, like Figgy says, he's worried about it, is a problem, that's a problem for them. A
yeah,
big problem.
yeah. I mean, I think it was already, just because of the schedule, they were going to have a taxed bullpen, or with the 6-man rotation, they were going to try to mitigate the possibility of overworking their starters. But Joe
Right.
Espada, this is going to be a big, and credit to him, he's been really good, better than solid, really good,
Yeah.
in his first little stretch here as the Astros manager. But he's got a job ahead of him, and how they managed, especially the first part of this season. Then we'll see how the year plays out, game to game, situation to situation, how things are managed. But the rotation, the bullpen, this Josh Hader situation, all of the all of these things are kind of feel like landmines that he's just trying to navigate around, trying to tiptoe around. And he's just gonna have to do his best. He's gonna have to do his best little dance here around all of these issues. So, but to the larger point, I do think that the Astros, okay, with a healthier with a healthier team, or better injury luck, however you want to phrase that,
Right.
I think that they are more of a contender for their division than they were last year, right? You get a healthy Yordan Alvarez, you kind of put everybody in their place, like figure out the infield, and Jose Altuve is your second baseman. You'll take whatever downside of him being 35 playing second base with the bat. And look, just better injury luck. The pitching staff, you can't have 2 guys a year having Tommy John, guys dropping like
Yeah, man.
flies, breaking their hand in the outfield playing catch, like what
Right.
happened with Spencer Arrighetti. They
Yeah.
can't have any of that. I think if you have just kind of a normal year in terms of injuries, they should be right there to win the AL West, and then we kind of see what happens. They don't feel, obviously not even making the postseason last year. They don't feel inevitable like they used to.
Right.
Oh, the Astros boogeyman, ALCS, Astros Invitational. It's none of that. But are they going to be one of the teams with right there in the mix for the American League? I think so, with better injury fortune.
And we will end it with that. I want to say one name though, Framber Valdez. I'm glad he got a job. He is going to the Tigers, and I think Josh Verlander may have also signed there.
Yeah,
If I read that,
yeah, Justin Verlander and
Justin Verlander, yeah,
Justin Verlander
Justin
and
Verlander.
Valdez gonna
Be
reunite
reunited, right?
in Detroit of all places with
Right.
old AJ Hinch.
Although
So
AJ Hinch, but I'm good for Framber. I
yeah,
like Framber, and I wish him well, except for whenever they have to face the Astros. But I always like Framber.
it is well earned. It is well earned from Fromber, who is I think my guy Adam Spillane had put it as their best. Framber Valdez is the Astros' best developmental success story since Jose Altuve.
Right.
You know,
Came up in the system. Yeah.
came up in the system, and credit to him though. Credit to the Astros for finding him, but credit to him for putting in the work and becoming one of the better pitchers especially left-handed pitchers in all of baseball, to get that almost $200 million deal.
Must be nice. Well, B. Scott, as always, I appreciate you, my friend. Joe says, great show. Thank you. I appreciate it. Always when you guys are chiming in. If you happen to be watching the replay later, just let me hear from you. That'd be great. I'm going to be dropping some different things for the rest of Black History Month, little snippets, some content that I'd like to share. Hopefully, I'm going to get to sit down with Dana Brown. I've requested that. So when I'm in West Palm, I mean, we get to talk to him all the time, but I'm hoping to get that I can sit down with him for a bit. What do you have going on, B. Scott, other than we'll both be at the Clippers game tonight?
Yeah, the B Block podcast. I'll be doing something not long after we finish. So check that out, or look out for that this afternoon. And if you catch the replay of this, catch the replay of that. I'm also going to be on Sports Radio 610. That's every Wednesdays at 4:40. We're doing a Rockets report now. So during Texans season, that's Texans report.
Oh, wow. Okay.
During Rockets season, it becomes Rockets report. They're back from the Super Bowl. So today, we're doing this Wednesday, is the first week of the Rockets report every Wednesday at 4:40. So check that out. And then also on In the Loop, Sports Radio 610 from 11 to noon on Fridays.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, my friend. I will see you soon. Thank you guys who all chimed in and shared your thoughts. I appreciate you. Remember a couple of things. Make sure you get registered to vote. I'm never going to tell you who to vote for. I am going to encourage you to vote. It's important. Your community needs you. So make sure you get registered and then be informed so that you know who to vote for. Nobody has to tell you what's best. You decide what's best, the policies and the people that are best for you and your family and your community. Do that. Also, do something kind for yourself. Do something kind for somebody else. And I will see you next week. Peace.